We subtract 2x and take that to the other side.
Should I give you one?
The second one?
Okay, I got everybody on this side.
We're gonna add x to your first step. So, yeah, and we know you can't have combined these, so rewrite it.
Okay, it says solve each equation for y. And this is going to come up here kind of as we move forward, and obviously today we are moving towards we will have a test, chapter 4 test, Friday. Okay, now that test will count on next 9 weeks. Okay, that test will count on next 9 weeks. Just because it's too much to try and get that done and people miss or whatever. So just gotta know that. We just got this homework that we collected here, that'll go on this 9 weeks, and just some homework as well kind of as we move forward. All right, now it says solve each equation for y. Preston, you know what that means or how to do it?
I got the y by itself and then did that.
So how'd you do that?
I subtracted 2x.
Okay, like this? Tell me what to write below.
Y equals 3 minus 2x.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. That's what it means to solve for y. Y equals 3 minus 2x. Now, the only thing I'm going to ask you to do, this is correct, but as we move forward, we'd like to have the x written first. So if I rearrange it, you would just make it y equals negative 2x plus 3. Make sure the negative travels with the 2. Wherever that 2 goes, that negative has to go with it. Okay? Now the second one, might be a little bit harder. Okay? Negative x plus 3y equals negative 6. Hold on here. Don't worry about number 3 there. Let's just look at number 2. Okay, yeah, what do you got?
Add x to both sides.
Add x to both sides. So if I add x, now tell me what to write. Go ahead, Caitlin.
3y equals negative 6 plus x.
Okay.
And then divide by 3.
Okay, now when you divide by 3, divide each one by 3. I want to divide all of them. And what is negative 6 divided by 3? Okay. Negative 2. Now, how do I write that last one?
1/3 x.
You can make it, there's a 1 there, you can make it a 1/3 x. Now, the only thing I'm going to ask you to do is then reorder it. 1/3 x minus 2. We're always going to want to put the x part first. Okay, for that one. So that is our goal, is we want to get y by itself. And so you follow those steps. So if I need to add or subtract anything, I move that. And then if there's anything in front of the y, I'll divide. So I had to divide by that 3. Negative 6 divided by 3, that's fine. That's just negative 2. But 3 does not divide into 1 evenly, so just leave it as a fraction. So really good if you put it like that. Now here, this just gives you the answers that we talked about. We had negative 2x plus 3. We want to write it in that order. And y equals 1/3 x plus minus 2. Reason that's really important is because when we start graphing, like what we're doing now, we like it written with the y first. So we substitute in. And normally you're going to see the x come first for that. All right, we're going to do section 4 today. We're going to look at 4-5 tomorrow, and then kind of Wednesday, Thursday review. Friday will be, like I said, the test. Friday will be the test. So that's obviously you want to start off the new 9 weeks on a good note for that. All right, let's take a look here. Graph and functions. We started that. We want to find patterns. We want to be able to plot points. And then we're going to give a limited domain, and then we're going to give the domain of all real numbers, but you can pick anything. Okay. All right, I'm gonna give you the function. Okay, and let me just, all right, so this first one's pretty, looks the same on your paper as you see up here. It tells you when it says D, you see where it says D behind that? That's telling you the domain. It says you plug in those numbers. It's telling you what numbers to plug in. So I gotta plug in -1, I gotta plug in 0, I gotta plug in 1, and I gotta plug in 2. All right, so it is telling me what to plug in. Now, you're not always going to have this, but right now it has that middle part there. That's to show your work or to figure out what y is. Y equals 2x plus 1, put that at the top. And then you're going to substitute that x value in for each one. So it's going to be y equals 2 times -1 plus 1. And then, all right, and then you can use your calculator, try to do it mentally, see what you come up with. Plug that in. And actually, let me see if I can get my calculator up and running. Okay. All right, and so for that one, that's 2 times -1 plus 1. And I got -1. Okay. So -1, and put your ordered pair there, -1, -1. All right, so these next three, go through, plug in 0, then plug in 1, then plug in 2, see what you get. All right, Jay Lee, how far are you?
I got them all.
Got them all? All right, what did you get for when you plugged in 0?
1,
1. How about when you plugged in 1?
3,
And how about when you plugged in 2?
5.
Okay, so that gives me the point 0, 1, the point 1, 3, and the point 2, 5. Okay, the point 2, 5.
Oh, yeah.
All right, now just plot those points. Go to the graph on the right. Do not connect them at this point. Do not connect them. You just plot those points. And so you got -1, -1. We said 0, 1. We said 1, 3, and 2, 5. All right, does it form a pattern? Yeah, it does. Basically, it's a what? It's a line. Okay, so it's a line. So if you get something that's like way off base, then that's like, and I kind of let you know it's a mistake. So if I accidentally plot, I don't know, this point down here, like if it's just a random thing, then you probably made a mistake somewhere. You want to go back and double check for the one that's kind of out of sorts. All right, now take a look here. It says x minus 3y equals -6. It tells us what to plug in. Okay, it tells us what to plug in. It tells us the D is the domain is -3, 0, 3, and 6. All right, what's step 1 say on your paper? Make sure we read that. Morgan, Campbell, what's it say?
Solve for y since you are given values of the domain for x.
We want to get y by itself. For all of these, it makes life simpler. So you got, and this is basically what we did earlier. So this is the exact same one I did earlier. We want to solve for y. What do I got to do? Subtract what first? Okay, hold on. Subtract x. Now I'm going to write, because we always like to have the x first. I'm going to go ahead and put -x minus 6 right now, instead of waiting till the end. Now if you wrote it the other way, that's okay. You don't need to erase it yet. But then to do, what do I still need to do from here? Okay, hold on. Divide by -3. It's not exactly the same as the one earlier. It's close. Those cancel, and so I'm left with y equals a negative divided by negative is a positive. Now there's a 1 there. It's just a lot easier if I make it 1/3 x. And now negative 6 divided by negative 3, positive 2. All right, now go to step 2. It says substitute the given value of the domain for x and find the values of y. Though it does have the equation shown there, which we just found. Now, what x values, you have them written, right? Negative 3, 0, 3, and 6. And so plug those in to your equation. And so do you need to use your calculator? And I got 1/3, which you can write as 1 divided by 3 times negative 3 plus 2. So I got 1. Now we're picking these x values that are nice so that we get back whole numbers. Because if you just randomly pick some things, you might end up with fractions. Connor?
I'm confused to ask him how you solved it and got to that.
Okay. So we had x minus 3y equals negative 6, right? When you're doing that, what are you thinking? I want to get y by itself, right? So what do you think? Subtract the x. Let me cover this up so you don't look at it. Subtract the x. What does that give us?
Negative 3y equals negative x minus 6.
Okay. Now what do I need to do? I don't have y by itself. What's still in the way?
The negative 3.
And so how do I get rid of that?
By the negative 3.
Okay, so that gives me y, right? All right, now negative divided by negative is always what? There's really a 1 there.
So it'd be positive x.
Positive what?
3x.
Not 3x. 1/3 x, because the 3's in the denominator. So it's 1/3 x, and then what's negative 6 divided by negative 3?
2.
Positive 2. Okay, so that's how we get that. Okay, the 1/3 x plus 2. All right, substitute in on those other 3. We got y equals 1/3 times 0 plus 2. I got y equals 1/3 times 3 plus 2. And I got y equals 1/3 times 6 plus 2. Joe, did you substitute those in? What'd you get when you substitute in 0?
I got 2.
2. So that is correct, and it should be the 0.02. How about when you substituted in 3?
I got 3.
3. So that would equal 3. So that gives me the 0.33. And how about when you plugged in 6?
I got 4.
You got 4. So 1/3. Yep, that would be 4. So 6, 4. All right, plot those points. What did we say the first one was? Negative 3, 1. 0, 2, right? 3, 1. Or excuse me. 3, 3. 6, 4. All right, does it form what's it form? Straight line. You don't connect it. Don't connect it because they only told us to plot those 4 points. That's all it said. Okay, and so I'm just going to plot those 4 for that one. All right, we've talked about this Friday. We've got to hit it again, and we'll hit it again, and we'll hit it again. Graphs with just an x will be a line. Graphs with an x squared will be a parabola. I don't know. You've seen that word in the past. We didn't use it last Friday. We also said it would be what shape? What letter? If it has an x squared, it's going to be U-shaped. Okay? So it's going to be U-shaped. Now I said when it just has an x, that would be like y equals 2x. That graph would be a line. Y equals x minus 3. That's going to be a line. Y equals 1/2 x plus 2. As long as there's no squared on the x, it's always a line. Once you put a squared on it, then it becomes a what? U. What kind of graphs are V's? Absolute value. Okay, so we got a line, we got a U, we got a V. Those are the three types of shapes that we're gonna deal with, okay, for right now. And then what makes them? Just a straight X is a line. Anytime you got an X squared, it's gonna give you a U. And then once you have an absolute value, okay, that's gonna be a V, okay, for that.
Can we ask something like that on the past? I forget. Like, what kind of graph do we get if we have X squared?
I don't know if that's a direct question. Maybe we should make it one.
No, I'm good.
That should be easy.
I'm good.
When we get to polynomials, we start asking that kind of stuff, right? So,
What's that, Joe?
Traumatic brain injury. I remember stuff.
You got the TBI? I understand.
My mom taught me when I was-
Okay, now, where are we at? Are we on the back? Flip it over to the back. Okay, so right now, the equation is x squared minus 3. So right now, you think in your mind, what shape should the graph be? U. It's gotta be a U when we're done. Okay, now it also tells us which numbers to plug in. -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Now I think you got a spot in the middle to do your work, right? Yeah, I'll have to do it to the side. But you got, this is the one that was missed the most because of your calculator error. When you plug in -2 squared, you must put the -2 in parentheses if you use your calculator. Okay, so go ahead and do that and see what you come up with. Plug it in your calculator.
And since we square that piece, that's why we get the U shape. If you don't put it in parentheses, then you're gonna end up graphing it and it's not gonna be a U.
No, because.
F of X, it's our, it's basically a fancy way of saying Y. Alright, that's right. So, like he said over here, we wanna solve for Y, well, it's already solved for Y. So the way to put this in the calculator.
Josh, what'd you get for, -2? One. Okay,
-3.
so I got -2, 1 for that one. And this is a big thing here. You have to
No, because that's Y. Yes.
put this in parentheses. All right, I'm gonna keep asking you to do this because I think this class has a lot of bright eggs in here and that you can understand this.
Then you can delete the negative.
What do we got here?
Okay. Yeah, that's, we call it F of X. Anyway, it's just. It means the function of X, so whatever value we're gonna put in.
Now, -2 squared, you should be good enough here. You say negative times a negative is a positive. That's +4. 4 minus 3 is 1. Okay, if you don't put it in parentheses, okay, it will give you a different answer. Okay, and that is a wrong answer. So you gotta put in parentheses with a negative. So it gives us 1. And then the next one is, now I could just use the Y for the F of X, but it would be the same thing. So -1 squared minus 3. Okay, what does that give us when we're done? Gives me -2. And then we do Y equals 0 squared minus 3. And that gives me -3. And Y equals 1 squared minus 3 is -2. And then 2 squared minus 3 is +1. All right, we said, what shape should this graph be, or the points? It should be a U. So -2, 1 goes here. -1, -2. 0, -3. 1, -2. Now, there's always going to be cases like a U is pretty similar to a V. And so you're like, it is pretty close to a V, but here's why it's not. And if you got your graph drawn accurately, you'll be able to tell. If I connect those 2 points with a straight line, will it go through the third point? But what if I move it to that point, it will not hit the second point. So if it's a V, it will go through all the points. A perfectly straight line will go through all the points. But right here, if I draw it through that, it's not going to hit it. Okay, so in order to, when we get to the point where we connect them, we're going to have to make it a curve, okay, for that. So, and just leave those points. Okay, just leave those points. All right, so we saw x squared. We say, all right, it's got to be a u. Okay. All right, now, big little step here. If the domain of a function is all real numbers, any number can be used in the input. Now, here's the difference. For all those 3 problems, I gave you the D. I said, you plug in these numbers. Sometimes we won't tell you what to plug in. Once, if I don't tell you, this is where you have to connect the points. Now it says, this process will produce an infinite number of ordered pairs that satisfy the function. Therefore, arrowheads are drawn at both ends of the curve. If the domain is not given, assume it is all real numbers. So if you take a look at that table there, it says, step 1, use the function to generate ordered pairs by choosing several values for x. Plot enough points to see a pattern for the graph. Connect the points with a line or smooth curve. All right, graph the function, negative 3x plus 2 equals y. Well, I do have the y by itself, but I probably want to do what? I want to flip the order. So really what you can do is you can make this y equals negative 3x plus 2. That's just more normal. What x values does it tell me to plug in, Preston?
-2. It doesn't say, does it?
No, okay, that doesn't say. So this is where it's all real numbers. So theoretically, you could plug in anything. Like Joe, he'd probably plug in like 110 and plug in some crazy numbers. 110 million. Okay. But we want to kind of narrow it down. We just don't want to pick anything. Okay, we want to make things a little bit easier. What should this look like? What type of pattern? What type of pattern? Let's see if we remember anything. Okay, Hanan?
For x?
Well, when we plot the points.
What shape is it going to be?
Yeah, what shape?
A line.
A line, yep.
Very good.
All right, it's going to be a line. All right, if it doesn't tell you what to plug in, here's what you should always do to begin with. Just plug in -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. I know we got an extra box down there, but we don't, I think we'll be fine with those. If they don't tell you what to plug in, and unless you have better reason, plug in -2, at least do those. And then once we know the line, we can plot that. So I got y equals -3 times -2 plus 2. Go ahead and plug in all your numbers. And then see what you get. So you're gonna plug in -2 the first time, -1, then 0, then 1, and then 2. Just reiterate what f of x means. Yeah, the function. So we remember that we get g back, so we can talk about it. Okay, yeah. All right, they were struggling. They were like, where's the line? Evan, how, you done with them?
I don't have a calculator.
What? Alright, Evan,
We can do it in our head.
-3 times -2 is what? Huh?
8.
Well, hold on, yes, 8's the final answer, but what's -3 times -2?
6.
6, and 6 plus 2 is?
Human calculator.
8, yeah, you're a human calculator.
Yeah.
-3 times -1 is
3.
plus 2.
5.
Yeah, see, you don't need a calculator. -3 times 0
0.
plus 2?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, throw you off here. -3 times 1?
Negative. Well, -3.
-3, and -3 plus 2?
1. -1.
Good.
Very good.
And -3 times 2 is?
-5. And then -8.
Hold on, -6.
Oh, okay.
And then -6
Why is it?
plus 2 should be -4. All right, so we got -2, 8, -1, 5, 0, 2, 1, -1, 2, -4. Okay, so we have all those. Now let's plot. Now we said it should form a line. So if something doesn't look right, we got to double check it. -2, 8. I believe the next one was -1, 5. 0, 2, 1, -1, 2, -4. Okay, now this is different than all the others because did they tell us what enough points to plug in? No. So technically, I plugged in 5, but I can plug in as many as I want. So do we know the pattern? Do I have an idea what the pattern looks like? Yeah, it's going to be a line. It has to hit all those points. So this is now the time when we connect those points with a straight line. You want to go past the first and the last point, and you want to make sure that there are arrowheads on the line because it keeps going. So now you have to draw this line in. Okay, connect all 5 points, go above the first and below the last one, draw arrowheads on it, because this represents all the answers. So 1, 2, 3, there's 5 that we plotted, but we could have plotted other numbers and come up with answers that are on that line. Okay, so make sure you draw it through there. Good? Yep, good. All right, good. All right, good. Sure. Yep, that's good. Okay. All right. I did this together. You said X squared has to look at what?
I
I know what that is.
Yeah, because that's what
Yes. Because what happens, that's what I do.
I know.
You do this like that.
Oh, I know.
So.
He has a good job.
All right. What I saw, good job there. Flip it over on to the next page.
Then.
Okay. Now this also hits this function notation. We talked about it before. A lot of times you are used to just saying y equals, but remember, what is the other way we can represent a y? We can use this function notation. So we can say f of x equals the absolute value of x plus 2. Or I can say, in this case, g of x equals the absolute value of x plus 2. So we just need to figure out, that tells you then whatever the x value is, we plug it in, and so we figure out what g of 1 is, or g of 2 is, or g of 3, and for that. Now, does it tell us what to plug in? No, we don't know. So technically we could plug in anything, but we don't wanna go crazy and plug in things that, would be difficult or way to the right or the left. So if they don't tell you what to plug in, just start with -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And that means we're also gonna have to draw the line through it. Now, it says absolute value. If it has an absolute value, what's it gonna look like in the end? What general shape? Okay, Jaylee? It's gotta be a V. If it doesn't look like a V, then we did something wrong. All right, so now g of x, that means I'm gonna take g of -2 is gonna equal the absolute value of -2 plus 2. Okay, and what's that going to be? Don't forget the absolute value of -2 is +2, and then 2 plus 2 equals, that should be a 4, right?
Yes.
Now they got x, g of x, you can think of that as xy. We just found g of -2 to be 4, so it's still gonna be that ordered pair -2, 4. Okay,
So for this one, is this one always gonna be -2, or is it because we have these ones? So it's gonna be-
it's because you're plugging in -2 into that
So all
spot.
these would be -1s besides this one.
Yep. So it's that. All right, Preston, you got me a little worried on you, okay? I'm a little concerned, so let's see, what happens when I plug in -1? Okay, and then what's my final answer for that, for g of -1? 3. Oh, phew. Okay, so it should be a 3 after I plug that in. So I got -1, I'm gonna plug in 3, or I'm gonna get back 3. So our x g of x, which is like our xy, is gonna be -1, 3. All right, plug in 0, plug in 1, and plug in 2. So plug in 0, so find g of 0, g of 1, and g of 2.
Okay, so in this parentheses, this one, and then in this parentheses, when you click this one, what is that one gonna be? Plus 2 and then number. So this one should have put parentheses, and -1, and then that whatever that number is, and then in these ones.
Now it's just being honest.
And then you write out the.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So that's our-
I saw that you.
Take the absolute value.
Oh.
Was that maybe, I was like, that do was right.
Yeah, so you keep it as an alternate.
When would you put there, why?
Yeah.
That's okay.
So it's taking.
I mean, you can write it as the other one, but it won't hurt anything. Hey, Morgan, what do you got there for 0, 1, and 2? What?
3 and 4.
So when you plugged in 0, you got back 2. So we got the point 0, 2. When you plugged in 1, we get back to point 3. I agree with. 2 is 4. Now we said it should look like what letter? Should look like a V. We have to connect these. So we said -2, 4. Whoops. We said -2, 4. We said -1, 3. Said 0, 2, and now here's where we see the V shape. You get 1, 3, 2, 4. So you should definitely see where that changes the direction. And now start at the kind of the bottom of the V, and we want to draw a straight line through to the right, to the left. Make sure you put arrowheads on both of those. Okay, go in both directions, and then go past that last point. Don't just stop at -2, 4. Make sure you go past it a little bit, and then put arrowheads on those. Okay, all right, good. All right, if you're done with that one, take a look at the next one. We'll do it together, but I want you to take a look at them, double check, and make sure we got it mapped right. Oh, just right. Yeah, make sure you put arrowheads. A little bit further past. Okay, good. Oh, Preston, that looks better.
I told you the thingy of
Right. Okay, it says use the graph of f of x equals negative 1/2 x plus 4 to find the value of f of x when x equals negative 4. Now I know this f of x stuff is still a little bit confusing, but basically says what is our answer, okay, as you look at that. So what does, when x equals negative 4, what does f of x equal? Okay, huh? She says 2. Are you plugging in negative 4 or positive 4? Okay. All right. And you should be able to just look at that graph. Zachary? 6. All right, he says 6. Now here's what's going on.
You did positive 1/2. It's a negative 1/2.
So right here, f of negative 4 is equal to 6. Really, you don't need to plug it in. Go to your graph, negative 4, and go up to here, and then that's when you're done. Okay, so answer 6. All right, now I know we're running out of time, so we're going to save that next one for tomorrow. Okay. If you copy that down, if you need graph paper, I would give you a piece of graph paper.